Things not seen. Day 3. My life. Wake up, shower, eat, read, talk to mom, watch TV, talk to mom, eat, nap, listen to jazz, read, talk to dad, watch TV, go online, talk to mom, eat, practice my trumpet, worry, watch TV, read, talk to mom, nap. So that's Wednesday. My second thrilling day is Bobby the missing person. It's weird not having anybody around. It makes so easy to think. Too easy, because unless the tube is on or there's music playing, it's just me thinking until mom calls again and again. When she calls in the morning, she wants to tell me everything I'm doing, like every second, starting with the cab ride home from the hospital last night. And she hopes that I remember to turn on the alarm system, and why I didn't call her, which I did, but she was too messed up to remember to turn the phone on. And have I remembered to water the plants? Because the ivy in the front hall needs half a cup of water every other day, or it droops. And did I do my homework? What do I mean I couldn't get the assignments? So if no one is online, then you just call them on the telephone. Have kids today forgotten how to use a telephone? What do I mean that I didn't want to talk to anyone last night? Am I feeling all right? Am I eating nutritious foods? I'm not just eating junk, am I? Because that's the worst thing for my complexion. 15 minutes of that, and I'm ready to scream and yank the phone out of the wall. The only good thing is that she doesn't have a charger there in the hospital. I'm guessing the batteries on her cell phone give out pretty soon. But then she'll just get a regular phone to put in her room, so there's no escape. I'm missing the old mom, who would show up once or twice a day, give an order, and then get on with her busy life. Suddenly it seems like I'm her life. Dad sounds all right when he calls me about noon, and I'm glad because I need Dad's help. I mean, like, what if the accident had messed up his head? But that clearly has not happened, because first he explains exactly how he's hurt, exactly, like he'd been a surgeon himself, or like he was awake the whole time taking notes. Then he tells me how he's been thinking about my situation. I can tell there's another person in the room with him because he's not being specific. He says, regarding your situation, Bobby, I've been running through some possible scenarios, possible cause scenarios. That's vintage Dad. He says, the second I get out of here, I'd like to run some tests at the lab. Maybe put a sliver of your fingernail under the electron microscope. Maybe try to get a reading from a spectrometer, things like that. Plus, there are dozens of fine papers in the journals of the past 10 years, things about light and energy, subatomic refraction, ideas that could give us some good science as a starting point, so we can generate a theory about what's going on here. Sound good? I say, yeah, I guess. But then I say, how come we don't just do detective work? Because it could have been anything that caused this, right? Like maybe I ate a chunk of irradiated beef at school cafeteria, or maybe we lived too close to some big power lines down in Texas, or maybe I inherited something from you, because you're the one who's been smashing atoms for 20 years. Shouldn't we just start looking for clues? Because I've been thinking too. Dad's not the only guy in the world with a brain. Dad says, yes, drawing out the word while his gears are turning. You've got some good points there, but we have to start somewhere, and for me that means finding a theory. Who's surprised? With Dad, it all gets back to a theory. That's what he does all day. He theorizes. Has he ever actually seen one of these atoms he studies year after year? No, he looks at made-up pictures of things that are invisible and comes up with theories. I don't want theories. I need some action. I'm not saying anything, and it's too long a pause. So Dad starts talking again. Maybe you could go online this afternoon, Bobby. You could go to the website of the journal Science and do some poking around. Search their database for articles on light. Do some reading, okay? I don't want to argue with an invalid, so I say, yeah, I'll check it out. But when we hang up, I turn on the tube and tune into a John Wayne festival on AMC, because a John Wayne movie is almost perfect cure for Dad's kind of thinking. With John Wayne, it's all about action. My big event for Wednesday is when Mrs. Trent comes to the front door about 2 o'clock, just as the Duke is revving up his war wagon. The doorbell rings, and I trot to the front hall. I can tell it's her. She makes a very wide shadow on the frosted glass. She rings a second time, and I make my voice sound kind of weak. I call out, hello, who's there? Bobby, it's Mrs. Trent from next door. I heard about your parents. You poor dear. Are you all alone in that big old place? I saw the lights come on last night, so I thought you must be there. But I didn't see you leave for school this morning, so I've been worried about you, and I thought I would bring over some cookies. It's the old get your foot in the door with some cookies trick. She really does bake amazing cookies. With Mrs. Trent, sometimes it's cookies, sometimes it's a question about how to make her VCR work. Or maybe it's a piece of our junk mail that got delivered to her house. Anything will do. And once Mrs. Trent gets into the front hall, it takes at least 20 minutes to get her out again. I'm not sure what to say, but I guess I have to go with what Mom told the hospital. So I say, My great aunt Ethel is staying with me till my folks come home. She came late last night, and I'm at home because I've got the flu. And Aunt Ethel told me to come to the door because she's in the bathtub. But I shouldn't open the door because of the flu, and because it's cold. Sounds lame to me, probably to Mrs. Trent too. But all she says through the door is, "Well, that's fine. I just wanted to be sure you were all right, Bobby. So I'll leave the cookies here on the porch, and your aunt can fetch them inside a little later. Now, you run along and get back into bed." "Okay, thanks a lot, Mrs. Trent. And I talked with my mom and dad today, and they're both doing fine." But she's already down the steps and waddling across the brown grass on her tiny front lawn. I peek through the glass, and I can see that she put the cookies down about 5 feet from the door. That's because Mrs. Trent is smarter than she looks. Plus, she has a big nose. With the cookies that far out on the porch, Mrs. Trent can sit in her front window and get a sideways look at whoever comes out to retrieve them. She wants to have a gander at Aunt Ethel. About 10 minutes later, Mrs. Trent sees the storm door swing open on our front porch. Then the short, plump person with stooped shoulders, wearing a long pink terrycloth robe and fuzzy blue slippers, shuffles out to the cookies, bends down slowly, picks up the plate, turns around, and shuffles back to the door. Mrs. Trent doesn't get a good look at Aunt Ethel for 3 reasons. First, the collar on the pink robe is turned up. Second, there's a bath towel wrapped around her head. And third, the real Aunt Ethel is about 1,200 miles southeast of here. And as a reward for my first major acting role, I have a whole plate of chocolate chip macadamia nut cookies to myself. They're gone by the end of the 3rd John Wayne movie. But apart from my big performance on the front porch, Wednesday is mostly boring. But I don't get scared at all Wednesday night. And then it's Thursday. Wake up, shower, eat, worry, watch TV, talk to mom, worry, watch TV, worry, talk to dad, read, worry, eat, worry, read, worry, talk to dad, worry, talk to mom, worry, listen to jazz, talk to mom, worry, 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 nap. I even worried during my nap. So Thursday is pretty much like Wednesday, only worse. Besides the worry, it's worse because it's a beautiful day outside, one of those trick days near the end of February in Chicago when it feels like spring, except you know there's going to be 6 or 8 more weeks of cold and snow and sleet. But a day like this actually makes you want to go outside and throw a frisbee or something. And it's worse because mom and dad are doing a lot better, and they feel like they have to call me all the time now, which is something new for them. And it's worse because I'm starting to see what's happening to my life. Because it's not like I wanted this. It's not like I'm some mad scientist who planned and studied and dreamed about becoming invisible all his life, and now it's happened, so I can now use my powers to take over the world. It's not like that. Not when it's really happening. And I can just hear some guys at my school talking about this. They'd go, "Whoa, you're invisible? And you're bummed about it? Like, what's your problem? Go with the flow, dude. Check out the girls' locker room. Check out the jewelry store. Go to the bank and learn some codes, man. Go work for the CIA, you know, like James Bond, only better. Invisible. That's so cool." Because if that's what some kid is thinking, that's because it's not happening to him. He's not facing it all day and all night. What it really means. This isn't a movie where you watch it for 2 hours and then it ends, and then you climb into a car and you talk about how the movie was while you go eat pizza with some friends. This isn't like that. This is my life. And what's happening means that suddenly my life is completely off track. It's like a train wreck, and I'm pinned down, trapped, and it's starting to feel like this is permanent. What if I never change back to the way I was? What then? Do I have to keep it a secret forever, like a spy who could never tell his wife and kids who he really is? Ha! What wife and kids? Right now it feels like I'm never going to get to be on my own, like never even get my driver's license, or go away to college, never buy a car, or get a job, or have my own apartment. Never. And how will I live? And where? Am I going to have to stay in this house with my parents forever? I'm pacing back and forth between the kitchen and the TV room, back and forth, and my whole life is on hold. I'm waiting for something to happen. I'm waiting for Mom to come home and Dad to think, and Mrs. Trent to bake more cookies, and the school to call, and the sun to go down, and the sun to come up again tomorrow. It's like my life is supposed to be playing, but the VCR is on pause, and the screen is blank, and maybe the whole rest of the tape is erased. So I go down the steps from the kitchen and out the side door. That's the door away from Mrs. Trent's house. I turn off the alarm, I peel off my clothes, all of them. I take the key out of my jeans pocket, and I go outside, tuck it inside the drain pipe beside the steps, and I go around the front corner of the house and walk west, right past Mrs. Trent's window. The weatherman said it was going to be unseasonably warm, and for once it was the truth. It was about 65 degrees, so it feels like when the air conditioner is up on high. I can bear it, so I'm going for a walk, today, right now, in the sunshine, because I can, because I want to, because I'm not going to just sit around and wait for stuff to happen anymore. I'm still me, and I have a life, It's a weird life, but it's still mine. It's still mine. Chapter 9, Lone Warrior. Last year, our world history teacher told us how the ancient Greeks used to go into battle naked, fighting with swords and shields and spears naked, and how they used to hold their athletic contests naked, running and wrestling and throwing discus naked. Tough guys, tougher than I am. Walking west toward the university, I miss my clothes. Not just the warmth, not just because it's only about 65 and the breeze is coming up. I miss the feeling of protection. But I think that maybe I get what the Greeks were up to, because being naked outside, out here on the battlefield, it's like I've never been this charged up, this alert, this ready for anything. There's no chance I'm going to make a mistake, because I've got no armor. There's only this thin layer of naked skin holding my life inside it. So I'm going to let a sword or a spear or some kid on a skateboard take me out? No way. And if I have to run a marathon or jump onto a brick wall to get out of the way of some girl in spandex on a mountain bike, why should I carry a single ounce of extra weight? Those Greek generals weren't stupid. Want your warrior and runners to be fast? Want them to fight like crazy and be extra careful and completely awake all the time? All I have to do is take away their clothes. Yeah, so I'm thinking deep thoughts, but mostly I'm having fun, because after 3 days of building a prison around my head, I'm out on the town. I'm a free man. Me and John Wayne, we're men of action. In real life, no one looks at anyone else very long. I can always tell if someone is looking at me. Most people can, I think, because when someone does look at you and you notice it, you look back at them and they look away, right? Especially strangers. I could never be one of those reality TV shows where a camera keeps staring and staring and watching everything I do. But today I can stare at people as long as I want to. Bobby, the human hidden camera, up close and personal. Like this guy who's walking the same direction I am. He's about 18, and he's got on baggy blue jeans and a snowboard sweater and a beanie, and I'm watching him. When some of the kids come toward us, he gets this look on his face, very cool, very into his own head. He swings his shoulders and he bobs his chin up and down. When the kids are past us, the dude walk stops, switched off. Then the kid scratches his head, picks his nose, wipes the booger onto his jeans, and takes a kick at a pigeon on the sidewalk, because no one is looking, except the lone Greek warrior. I feel like I'm hurrying, and then I know why. In the back of my mind, I've known since the second I left my house. It's because I'm at 59th and Kenwood, and the timer in my head tells me that classes at the lab school are just about over for the day, and if I hurry, I can go stand out front and see what's happening. Turns out, it's a fairly dangerous idea, because I'm in front of the entrance at dismissal, and there's no place to keep out of the way. 4 doors are draining straight at me, with about 300 kids streaming out down the steps and across the lawns, headed for the cars and buses and sidewalks that take them home. 3 days ago, I was right in the middle of the herd. It's hard enough to keep from getting trampled when everyone can actually see you, so I scrambled to one side and used a bike rack as a safety zone. I lean back, but only for a second. The metal bars feel like icicles against the backs of my thighs. I spot Kenny Temple and I smile because I know he's saying something funny. He's always funny. He's talking with Jay Bender, and they're laughing and shoving each other. Kenny's got his backpack over one shoulder and his jacket's open flapping. He's got a sax case in his right hand and that big red book in his left hand. It's the 50th anniversary edition of The Lord of the Rings. Kenny hasn't let it out of his sight since he got it for his birthday 3 weeks ago. The best part is that the book comes with a full set of maps. Then Kenny's onto his bus, and the kids keep coming. A gang of sophomore girls, the popular ones, Maya, Leslie, Carol, Jessica, and 3 or 4 others whose names I've never learned. Because what would be the point of that? I know Jessica from my honors biology class, but she doesn't know me. The girls glide down the front steps like a unit, like airplanes in formation. Jessica's the wing leader, tossing her head and lips curled in a smile. The others take their cues from her. Jessica's talking, and the squadron is listening. They're listening like Jessica is telling them the secrets of the universe. Those funny, clever, precious secrets, the secrets that make them the chosen ones. And I'm not the only guy or girl looking at them, and they know it. But I turn away, because I'm a Greek warrior, and they are beneath my notice. My eyes are pulled back to the steps. Right behind the girls come the soccer gods. In Texas, it was football. At the lab school, it's the soccer. Season's been over for months, but not the swaggering. That lasts all year. I could easily step out and trip Josh Ackerley, see him stumble and sprawl down the steps. But why should a great warrior stoop to even notice such a pathetic creature? Besides, watching Josh fall might make me laugh out loud, and I have taken a vow of silence. The traffic thins, and a few teachers mill around the doors. Dr. Lane, Mrs. Berg, Mr. Clapman, and then the buses pull away, and the flow trickles down to a few stragglers. Show's over. School's out. I've been standing still too long. Now the warrior is cold. I'm tempted to go inside and warm up, but I know I wouldn't feel comfortable in there. Still, it would be fun to find Mr. Stoyas. Maybe do a little floating trumpet act for him down the band room. See if he wants to work it into the program for the spring jazz concert. But Mr. Stoyas will have to wait. I have other things to do, like keep my feet from freezing out here on the battlefield. If I go a few more blocks, I can relax in a place where I always feel at home. A place with no gray linoleum on the floor. A place that won't smell like cafeteria food. So I double time it toward the big university library. I need to walk in the warm carpet for a while. If the ancient Greeks had lived next to Lake Michigan instead of the Mediterranean Sea, maybe they'd have reconsidered the nakedness thing. Walt's at the check-in desk again, but he has no authority over me today. Warriors don't ask permission. I march past his guard post, hidden by my shield. Warmth. Heat is a good thing. Cold makes it impossible to relax. Cold plus naked is even worse. But this is nice, cozy and bright, and clean, soft carpets. No broken glass to step around, no dog poop, no half-melted slush. I burst into the stairwell and feel like I'm flying, running up the stairs 2 at a time. It's like this body I can't see weighs nothing, and I know where I'm going, to the third floor, the perfect place, a little fortress where a soldier can get some R&R. I'm headed for one of those soundproof listening rooms. I should be able to smuggle a good CD into one of those rooms somehow. How tough could it be? The CD isn't that big, right? Maybe hide it under my arm. Then I can block the door and settle into a big soft chair and listen to Miles Davis while my feet thaw out. There are 4 rooms. All I need is one. There's a study group in the first listening room, 5 serious people grim. I think they're in law school, maybe pre-med. In the second room, a guy holding an orchestra baton is facing the wall opposite the door. He's on his feet, swaying with the music, conducting with all his might. 2 people are pacing around in the third room, a man and a woman practicing a theater scene. Very dramatic. The last room is being used too, but it's just one person, and she's only using a laptop. I feel like pounding on the door and yelling, "Hey, this is a listening room, sister. You can tap on that thing anywhere, so beat it." And I'm about to turn away when I recognize her. And I pause, and I gulp. And I tap on the door softly, and then step inside the room quickly and shut the door behind me. Because I know this girl, and I'm feeling brave right now. Brave enough to break my vow of silence. That's because the girl tapping on the laptop is the girl I met on Tuesday. It's the blind girl. Chapter 10, Push and Pull. The girl is startled, and so am I. Because she's not just typing on her laptop. I didn't see the slim tape recorder on the table next to her computer, and a man's voice is speaking. He had almost gone by before Hester Prynne could gather voice enough to attract his observation. At length, she succeeded. "Arthur Dimsdale," she said, faintly at first, then louder, but hoarsely. "Arthur Dimsdale." I know those names. She's listening to an audiobook. She's reading. My hand is still on the doorknob. She's turned toward me in the chair, her face a mixture of curiosity and concern. I can still back out. I can turn around and go silently out of the room, and she'd never know it was me. But it's been 3 days since I've talked to anyone except Mom and Dad, and Mrs. Trent and Dr. Fleming, and a couple of cab drivers. So basically it's been 3 days with no human contact. She says, "Hello?" And it strikes me that she's easily the prettiest girl who's said hello to me in at least 2 years. So I try to sound normal as a naked guy can sound, and I say, "Hi, I'm sorry to barge in, but I saw you, and I wanted to say hi." Her head tilts a little to one side, and her hair falls away from one cheek. "You don't really know me, but I'm the guy," she nods, smiling a little, "the guy who ran into me down by the entrance on Tuesday, right? I remember your voice. You made a strong first impression." Bigger smile now, a sense of humor. "Yeah, I'm really sorry about that, and that I had to run off, too, but I was late for something." She shrugs, still smiling. "No big deal. I'm usually the one who bumps into things. It was nice for a change." I don't know what else to say, and neither does she. The tape recorder is still talking like a third person trying to keep the conversation alive. I notice her hands, long fingers, sensitive, never completely still, as if she can tell I'm looking at her hands. She stirs, feels around a little, pushes the button, and the voice stops. In the quiet I say, "The Scarlet Letter, right? We read that first semester. How do you like it?" She wrinkles her nose and shakes her head. "Too slow for me. I like books with more action." "Yeah, me too." And we're stuck again. I started to wish I hadn't opened her door. "So, do you come and study here a lot?" She nods. "I've got this room reserved 4 times a week. I live pretty close. A couple hours here is better than being stranded at home all the time." "So you don't really go to school? Like, not every day?" "Like, never. I take correspondence courses, independent study." "Through the U of C? So you can use the library and stuff?" She shakes her head again. "I've got an ID because my dad teaches here. I take courses from a special school up the North Shore." "Your dad teaches here?" "So does my mom. Something safe to talk about. Lame, but safe. She's into English literature." "What's your dad teach?" Astronomy, mostly, and some math. She does the nose wrinkle again. He's pretty much of a nerd. So we could talk about we could also talk about our dads, try to figure out which one is nerdier. Except before I stop to think, I hear myself asking, "How long have you been blind?" Right away her smile freezes. She gets this half confused look on her face, and she starts to turn red. I can't tell if she's mad or embarrassed, so I try to back off. I mean, like, I'm not trying to get personal, but I just wondered, because I really don't know anyone who's blind, and I was just curious, she says, and her right eyebrow lifts up. You were curious about the little blind girl? There's an edge to her voice, not angry exactly, more like sarcastic, and a little amused, like she can tell I am embarrassed now, so she's messing with me. It's all right, she says. I can talk about it. I've only been blind for about 2 years. Was it an accident or something? An accident? An accident, you mean? Like, as opposed to maybe I made myself blind on purpose, or maybe by poking myself with a sharp pencil. Or like a pot of acid blew up in science class, that kind of accident. Is that what you mean? Definitely sarcastic now. I put my hands up like I'm backing off, which is stupid twice. First, because I'm invisible, and second, because even if I wasn't, she's blind. But I put my hands up anyway and say, hey, it's okay. You don't want to talk. I'll just go away. Really, didn't mean to bother. Didn't mean to take you away from your wonderful novel. Sarcasm is a lot more fun to give than receive. Then I say, so long. And I turn and open the door, and I'm gone, pulling the door shut with a thump. Because who needs this? Besides, my feet aren't cold anymore. I'm about 5 steps away when her door opens behind me, and she says, hey, can you come back? 6 or 7 students turn to look, some sitting at terminals and some studying at tables by the windows. They're trying to figure out who the girl's talking to. I walk back quickly, and when I'm close, I use the library whisper, and I say, okay. She turns and sits down at the table again. I shut the door and take a look at our audience of students. They don't have time to worry about some girl who calls out to no one and then closes her door again. Midterms are coming. They go back to work. I'd like to sit down, but I'm not sure I want to plant my bare bottom on some public piece of university property. I solve the problem by pulling out a chair, folding my right leg onto it, and then sitting on my leg. When she hears me sit down, she aims a sheepish smile my way and says, sorry, I didn't mean to. No, I say, really, it's my fault. I didn't mean to be nosy. You don't even know me. I shouldn't have asked that. I've been on my own a lot for the last couple of days, so I've been doing a lot of thinking, and it's like I've forgotten how to talk to people. So when I thought that question, I just kind of said it right out loud. I mean, like a week ago, I probably wouldn't have even said hi, so you've got nothing to be sorry about. There are so many different kinds of smiles. This one she smiles at me is a new one. It's warm, but there's tons of other stuff behind it, like sadness and loneliness, a lot of loneliness, I think. And she says, what do you mean about being on your own a lot? I start carefully. You know, on Tuesday, like a couple of hours after I ran into you at the library, my parents got in a car wreck, and they're going to be okay, but they're still in the hospital. She's got a great face, the kind where she's feeling what she's feeling is right there, and it's okay to just keep staring at her because she can't see me. I mean, like even if I could be seen, but it's not like watching that guy on the street because the girl knows I'm here. She knows I exist. She must know I'm looking at her face. It's a face worth memorizing. Her eyebrows come together. And you're staying at home by yourself? Your parents said that was okay? Yeah, it's sort of complicated, but that's the way it's been. So you just take a bus to school? I've been at home. Sick? Not really. Just not ready to face school right now. I'm ready to stop talking about me. So do you like the correspondence course thing? Sounds pretty nice. I mean, not going to school and all. She gives this funny little snort. The only reason it sounds good is because you're not locked into it. I don't have any choice. She pauses, then decides to keep talking. I called you back because no one ever asked me about being blind or how it happened or anything. Most people just try to avoid me, especially other kids. It's like they pretend not to notice. So when you asked that, it was a surprise. And it doesn't take much to get me feeling sorry for myself. It happens in a second, and then I get mad. And don't forget sarcastic. She grins and almost laughs. Right, and sarcastic. A beeping sound fills the small room coming from the laptop. Then this demented-sounding voice says, 3:55 p.m. She smiles. That's Albert. He lives in my computer. I've got to be out of here in 5 minutes. She pauses again, thoughts running across her face. Then, are you going home soon? Because I've got to head home. But if you're going to leave soon, we could walk a little. It's a pretty nice day outside. So I say, sure, let's go. In 2 minutes, her laptop and tape player are packed away. She puts on her coat and backpack and picks up her long white cane, and we're on the move. Chapter 11, Close Calls. First comes the elevator test. We get on at the 3rd floor of the library with 2 other people, and then 4 more students with enormous backpacks pile in at the 2nd floor. It could have been It could get very bad. People crushing my feet, shoving me into the walls, discovering the alien in their midst, screaming, freaking out, but none of that happens. Everyone jams onto the far side of the elevator, and no one says a word. And I can see it's because the girl's long white cane is like a magic wand. She holds it in front of her, almost vertical, to take up less room. Her fingers on it like a long pencil, and it comes almost to her nose. No one wants to bump into the blind girl, so her cane is why I passed the elevator test so easily. Plus, it's a short ride to the first floor. We go past security, and there's Walt. He sees the girl and says, "Hey, Alicia, how's it going?" She smiles and says, "Fine, see you tomorrow." We don't slow down, and now I know her name, Alicia. I feel awkward. I don't know if I should offer to guide her or what. She holds her cane out ahead of her, sweeping it back and forth like radar. When it touches the door, she stops. Softly I say, "I'll get that," and she waits while I push it open, and then she's off again, out and down the steps to the pavement. I know she must have traveled this route a lot of times, but the way she steps ahead is still pretty amazing. So I say, "You get around by yourself really well." She gives me a thin smile and says, "Yeah, and if I work extra hard for another 10 years or so, I'll be able to go places about as easily as your average 6-year-old on crutches. So that's something to look forward to, right?" Then her smile warms up. Oops, more sarcasm. We're facing the street in front of the library entrance. She stops and brings the cane straight up in front of her. She points west and says, "I live about 4 blocks that way. How about you?" And she smiles. I'm not 100% sure, but I think she'd like to keep talking. I start carefully. I live south and east of here, but I could take a little detour. 4 blocks isn't so far. Which isn't exactly true. It's at least 5 degrees colder now, and the breeze has shifted. It's coming in off the lake. I'm cold, but I have shifted back to Greek warrior mode. What's a little discomfort to one such as I? She says, "That's great." Then she puts out her right hand toward me. "Here, let me hold on to your elbow. That way we can walk closer to your speed of instead of mine. You can be my eyes for a few blocks, okay?" "Okay?" "No, it's not okay. You see, I've got no clothes on, and you're a girl who wants to hold my arm and go for a stroll along 57th Street. But I can't say that. If I say no thanks, then it'll be like I think she's a leper or something, and it'll hurt her feelings, which seems so easy to do. So I take a half step closer and I stick out my elbow and bring it to her hand, which is not so easy when you can't see her arm. She takes hold lightly, and we start walking west. I have to shorten my stride because I'm taller. I'd like to just walk along and talk with her, but there are other people on the sidewalks, too much else to deal with. But when we get away from the library, there are fewer people, and there's also traffic noise, so I'm not afraid to talk. Plus, she's right about people avoiding her. No one walks near her. No one even looks at her for more than a second. "So I heard Walt call you Alicia back there. Nice name." She says, "Thanks. What's yours?" "Bobby Phillips." I stink at small talk. We walk along, just walking, and that's fine because a guy and a girl come up right behind us, and then they split and go past on either side of us when we're almost to Ellis Avenue. The guy's on my side, and I'm ready to dodge him if he starts to plow into my space. But he sees Alicia's white cane and makes a wide arc to my right, saved again by the magic wand. Then I say, "So if you're doing this walk alone, you're listening to traffic, right? To tell when the lights have changed?" She nods, and the sounds let me know how close I'm getting to the corner, too. That helps if you have to be ready for a step down. But I know this route really well, and all the curbs have wheelchair cuts. Those are good for me, too. And then we're at the corner, and the light has changed, and we're halfway across the street. Then trouble. Whipping up the opposite sidewalk from behind the parked cars, it's a boy, and he's kicking along a little silver scooter. He's about 12, and he's got some control problems with the thing, and he's got his head down, and he can't see us because his helmet has a visor, and he's really moving. I shout, "Hey," and he looks up, but he's not stopping, so I grab Alicia's arm and pull her to the right, just in time to keep her from getting nailed. And as I pull her out of the way, she lets go of my elbow and puts her hand out to catch herself. The kid shouts, "Hey, yourself, lady," and flips us the bird as he zooms off along the sidewalk. So we make it to the other curb, and we're not dead, and nobody's too near, so I say, "Close call. Sorry about that. Some kid on a scooter. You all right?" And I look at her face, and she's not all right. Not at all. There's a look on her face, a little scared, partly confused, partly something else, like disgusted. And I know why. Because when I yanked her off balance and she put her hand out, her open hand went right up against my rib cage, almost into my left armpit. And and she knows what bare skin feels like. "You don't have a shirt on." It's not a question. She takes a half step back and says, I thought it was weird when I took your elbow and you didn't have long sleeves or a jacket, but I just figured you were wearing a t-shirt or something because it was so warm earlier. But like even back in the library? How can you not have a shirt on in the library? And out here? It's cold now. It's February. And I can't deal with this. Not now. I can't stand here on the street corner and tell her that as weird as she thinks it is, it's actually 10 times stranger than that. 100 times stranger. What's going on? Talk to me. Are you there? I gulp. Yeah, I'm here. But look, can I try to explain this later? Like, could I call you at home? It's not like what you think. Her face becomes fierce, a mask, almost primitive. It's not what I think. So now you know what I think? Is that it? Believe me, you don't. Because right now I think that for the last half hour I've been hanging out with some strange guy with no shirt on, who's probably covered with tattoos. I bet you have some piercings and some terrific body jewelry, right? So just get away from me, Bobby Phillips, if that's even your real name. You're not the first creep to try to pick up a cute little blind girl, and I'm not stupid. I know exactly where I am. This is my neighborhood, and I'm walking home now, alone. And if you come near me, like if I even think you're near me, I'll scream. And every shop owner and everybody who lives along this street knows who I am, and they'll be out here to bust you in a second. So go. Now, go, and let me hear you yell goodbye from the other side of the avenue. Now. I don't say anything because a lady is walking past us, frightened of this blind girl who seems to be yelling at no one. If I were even a little bit guilty of anything, I'd just walk away. If I hadn't told her my name and that my mom works for the university, if she had no way to trace me, I'd just walk away, which would be the smart thing to do, even now. But now I'm mad too, because she has no right to yell at me. I haven't done anything wrong. I haven't lied to her, and I'm not going to. I'm not a creep, and I won't let her think that about me for the rest of her life. So I say, go ahead and scream. Scream all you want. I'll stand right over here, about 10 feet away. And when you're done screaming and everyone comes to help you and they come and try to haul me away and they can't even find me right on this corner, then maybe I'll tell you what's really going on. Because you don't have a clue. Not a clue. No one does. So go ahead and scream. Let's see what happens. The face of hers is running through about 10 emotions a second. But there's one emotion taking charge. It's the fear. Like me on that first night at home. Alicia is alone in the dark and she's afraid. And it just keeps building. She sucks in this huge breath, and I think she's really going to do it. Just scream bloody murder. But she holds the breath for 5 seconds, 10 seconds, then she lets it hiss out slowly. Her voice is hard and flat. So tell me. Tell me the truth. Tell me the big secret. Tell me how come you're not some shirtless creep. She's gripping her white cane with both hands, ready to use it like a samurai sword. Simple. Because I'm not just shirtless. I'm also pantsless, and boxerless, and sockless, and shoeless. I'm not wearing any clothes at all. You wanted the truth, and I swear to God that's what I'm telling you. And if I'm telling you the truth, that I'm naked, then how come there's not a huge crowd standing around us right this minute? How come? She's really confused now, and even more afraid. So I say, one possible reason a completely naked person is not drawing the crowd would be that everyone is as blind as you are. And the only other reason isn't even possible. That would be that no one can see me. So which do you think it is, Alicia? Is everyone around us blind, or am I invisible? It's like I've just slapped her across the mouth. She comes to a full stop, then furious. She hisses, very funny. Oh, look, she says, her voice dripping bitterness. She jerks her hand up and holds it in front of her face and acts like she's opening her eyes extra wide. Well, I'm invisible too. Ice and granite and stainless steel. Why don't you just take your sick humor and go away, Bobby? She practically spits the name into my face. Alicia doesn't know what to do. And again, I think she might just start screaming. Instead, she takes her right hand off her cane and holds it out toward me. Her hand is trembling. Here, let me hold your hand. Her voice is shaky now, but she sure has guts. I don't know what I'd be doing if our places were reversed. Probably be screaming by now. I put my hand on her palm, and she clamps onto it. It's a powerful grip for such delicate-looking fingers. Is anyone walking toward us? I scan the sidewalk. Yeah, there's a guy just coming out of the Starbucks. He'll be here in about 15 seconds. When he's right next to us, you squeeze my hand once, okay? I gulp, because she's really got a grip. If she's going to try to get this guy to call a cop or something, then I'm going to have to work to get loose. But I say, fine, whatever you say, because I want her to know I'm not lying. The guy is almost next to us, and I squeeze her hand. Excuse me, sir. She's cute, and she's good at asking for help, and the guy stops. In a voice that's louder than it needs to be, the man says, Yes, can I help you, miss? Do you need to get across the street? My heart is jumping around in my chest, and I'm tensed, ready to cut and run. Alicia smiles at the man and says, This guy here next to me, can you tell me if he's taller than I am? We've been having an argument because I think I'm taller than he is. What do you think? Her hand tightens around mine. The man is torn. He doesn't see a thing. I can tell this guy is worried that he's going to hurt this blind girl's feelings, but he clears his throat and says, "The guy there next to you? Miss, actually, there's no one there." She shakes my hand like a puppy shaking a rag. "He's right here. I'm holding his hand." "Who's telling? Can you tell?" Her voice is shrill, almost frantic. The guy doesn't like being called a liar. "Miss, whoever you thought was there right next to you, he's not there now. And I've got to go before the light changes." And he cuts across 57th Street, glancing back once, shaking his head. And now there's a new look on her face. New for Alicia. But I've seen it before, on Mom and Dad's faces, that first morning. It's the look of someone who's trying to process impossible information, because when something impossible happens, everything else comes unglued. She's having trouble breathing. Then the first words. "So, you're really," "Yeah," I say, "invisible." Then she finishes her sentence. "Naked?" And I have to laugh a little, and I say, "Yeah, that too. And you're not some creep. Like you're really Bobby Phillips, and you go to the lab school, and your mom teaches literature just like you said, and this is really happening to you? Like, for real?" "Really," I say. "I'm not making this up. How could I? You heard that guy. He couldn't see me. No one can if I don't wear clothes. And I came out without clothes today because the only other way is to get completely covered up, like I was on Tuesday, except earlier today, it wasn't cold enough for that. And I had to get out of the house for a while. I had to. Then I say, "Look, can we move closer to the buildings? Because people keep coming past us, and you look funny here talking to no one. Over here." She nods and follows my voice, tapping with her cane until she reaches the wall, looking sort of dazed. She's shaking her head. "But how? Did it happen? Like, why you?" I give an involuntary shrug. That's what I've got to find out, and I have no idea. And again, the fact hits me like a bus. I have no idea, neither does my dad. He's a science wonk. He sounds a lot like your dad, maybe worse. He's real smart and he doesn't even have a theory. Only me and my mom and my dad know about this. And now you. She's standing there next to a drugstore window, a sharp breeze blowing her hair across her face, and she's trying to get her mind all around it. And she's doing a lot better than my parents did. A sudden blast of frigid air hits us from the east, and she shivers. Then this look comes over her face. It's a mom look. And in a mom voice, she says, "You must be freezing." "Yeah, but everything's pretty intense for me about now, so I don't think about it much." "You want some cocoa? They have good cocoa at Starbucks. Really, you need to warm up. Here, put your left hand on my cane out there in front of mine, and you can just walk in with me. Everyone gets out of my way. Let's go." And she turns toward the coffee shop, and I hold the cane, and in we go. She buys a tall cup of cocoa and asks for 2 straws. I steer her up to a pair of stools against the wall. She pops the top off the cup and puts both straws into the drink. I start to bend toward the right-hand straw, but she whispers, "Too hot. It's always too hot. Just stir it for a minute or two." There's a man at a small table about 3 feet from us. He glances up when he hears Alicia whisper, but immediately looks back to his newspaper. I guess blind people are allowed to whisper to themselves if they want to. Probably anybody is. When the cocoa is drained down to the sweet, dark stuff at the bottom of the cup, we get up and walk back outside. Then to the corner. The clock on the bank across the street says it's 4:28, 58 degrees. Alicia says, "Sorry I got so mad. I'm always getting mad." I say, "Me too." Then I say, "I've got to get home. My mom's probably tried to call about 10 times, and I've got to let her know that I'm okay before she calls the National Guard or something. Except she can't, because we're not telling anyone about this. My dad thinks I'd get abducted by the government or something, and he's probably right. He'll go nuts if he finds out I told you. So you've got to keep this a secret, okay?" She nods, dead serious. "Absolutely." Then a thought runs across her face, and she grins. "But don't worry, because if I go to my mom and dad or anybody, and I say, 'Hey, guess what? I drank some cocoa today with this invisible boy,' who do you think is going to have a problem, you or me?" I laugh a little, and then say, "Listen, I've got to go." She says, "I'll be in that room again tomorrow from 1 to 3, and if you want to call sometime, my last name is Van Doren." "Good. I'll try to come tomorrow. Maybe about 2, okay?" And she smiles and says, "Good. See ya, Alicia." "Bye, Bobby." When I'm on the other side of Alice, I look back. Alicia's walking away, working the long white cane, heading home. I turn and start jogging, and I feel strong. I am the Greek warrior, and I know exactly what this soldier is going to do when he gets back to the barracks. He's going to take a long, hot bath. And as I trot along, I'm doing something I haven't felt like doing for at least 2 days. I'm smiling.